So, Chris Peregin,
This is weird.
The Nationalist Party's new strategist, right?
Yeah.
What's your role going to be exactly?
I'm going to be helping the campaign, the electoral campaign. So my contract is tied to the electoral campaign, and I hope to be helping to communicate the vision of the next government.
So presumably if it's a definite contract, you must have certain goals that you need to reach to stay on. As in, what's the plan here? Are you just looking to help out with the election and then move on?
Now I've gone all in, right? So I've sold I'm in the process of selling my business. I've given up my career as an independent journalist, probably for life. And I really want to be part of a new vision for Malta, a new government for Malta. So I am seeing this hopefully being able to materialize quite quickly. But I'm personally sort of in it for the long run, in the sense that this might take a while, Theoretically, it will take a while, as in, like, if you look at the numbers, it's
practically, not theoretically.
Yeah,
do you
practically.
think the Nationalist Party can win the next election?
I think anything is possible, I think the message from the FATF is we don't trust this government, and with good reason,
When you're wearing your media hat, you seem very unsure about Adrian Delia's role in the party, whether he should stay on as leader, and that was sorted. You think he should stay on as an MP?
Yeah, as in, I supported Adrian Delia's leadership campaign originally. I thought he was the better of the four candidates at the time. I think when Daphne was killed, the world changed, and it changed for him specifically, because he had got elected on that kind of messaging, which at the time wasn't strange, at the time it was the sentiment, that there was Daphne wasn't being believed by the public, which is today, it seems crazy and it seems outrageous, but this is how life works, right? Things change overnight sometimes, and things changed overnight for Delia, and I think it's admirable and really positive that, despite everything that Adrian Delia went through, and you can't forget that he did give up literally everything for this, and he went all in, and I know what it's like now to go all in within a smaller context probably than what he did, I think it's amazing that he's still an MP. I think he looks like he's really enjoying that role, and he fits that role, and he is in many ways a man of the people who can probably represent his constituents in a phenomenal way, and I think it's not a lesson, but it's an example to what other people should be doing, that they should find their role in the party where they shine, and shine.
And you use the word shine, but there's a lot that has taken, the shine off Delia. He's faced countless accusations. Lovin Malta revealed many of them, accusation of money laundering, domestic violence, and all that. So how can you still feel comfortable having him on, like, within the party? If the party wants to preach good governance, shouldn't they, they be setting an example with people like Adrian Delia?
I mean, as journalists, we do our job, when we expose whatever we feel needs to be exposed, and whatever is seems to be material enough sort of for us to expose it, and we speak to our sources, and we confirm information throughout the sources, and sometimes we make mistakes, sometimes we're not even as effective as we should be, or as decisive as we should be with our stories, you know. I'm not here to sort of police people, you know, as in I don't think that's my role. I don't think, maybe it was my role as a journalist before, and I feel like I did it effectively, but my role here is to help build an alternative government, and I will respect the decisions of the party, and I think Adrian Delia is an asset for the building of an alternative government.
And Bernard Grech, what drew you towards him, as in what characteristics made you say, I want to join the Nationalist Party?
I think Bernard Grech is the right leader for the moment, right? He's the right leader for the time, and that's very important in leadership.
So do you see him as an interim leader rather than...
No. I mean, he's the right leader.
And one of the qualities you weren't too keen about is his penchant for being a bit behind on his taxes. You had said in I think it was the December 2020 Facebook post that, you know, you don't want to live in a country where an opposition leader pays off his taxes right before, you know, posing for that post.
Yeah.
How have you suddenly reconciled and come to terms with working for that person?
Look, I think it's, first of all, it's interesting to note that, you know, this sort of tax audit on Bernard Grech happened, you know, immediately after he started speaking out at nationalist and Daphne Caruana Galizia vigils and things like that, right? In the sense, there was the second he sort of got on government's bad books, so to speak, there was a zooming in on his books, you know, and I think, you know, tax and tax disputes with the like, those are things that are, you know, not ideal, but it's also something that happens to a lot of people, not out of it's not something that is intentional. It's something that, you know, it's Daphne had her own disputes with tax, you know. I was going to say I did. I don't think I ever did. I might have, for all I know. And if I ever did, I'm sure that it will come out now. And you know what I mean? Like, it's the kind of...
Yeah, but it's not the minor issue that you're making out of it. And let's not forget that the FATF grey listing was in part because of how we don't tackle tax evasion.
And it is a bit concerning as well when it comes to the FATF that because of the very nasty spotlight the government cast on Malta, that, you know, a hairdresser who might have not, you know, declared 100% of their income or whatever is now being, like, instead of being dealt with administratively, is going to be dealt with criminally, you know. And we keep protecting the people who we've known for at least 5 or 6 years have been incredibly devious and criminal when in power, you know, not like Bernard Grech when he was, you know, not even in politics, you know, as in there is this. So on the one hand, you know, as soon as
but you're already speaking in partisan terms there, because they did it, and, you know, is that the approach that, you know, we should be taking?
Well, as in it's partisan politics, but the reality is that when, you know, someone speaks out against this government, they face the wrath of the machinery of government and labor propaganda and all of that, you know. And when people within the Labour Party or the people who hijacked the Labour Party were exposed for incredibly devious wrongdoing that was designed, like by design, you know, to instead of them getting into trouble, we all got into trouble, you know, with FATF.
And how long have you been a member of the party?
I think it was about 3 years. I joined.
So when Adrian Delia was
I know I joined, I'll give you a little scoop here. I joined both parties the second that both parties allowed voting for leadership. Because in my mind, if I could have a say on who my political party leaders are, I should have a say, So I joined both parties. I didn't get to vote for the Labour one because it was the timing didn't allow for me to participate. I think I was voted for Chris Fern, to be honest, but I didn't get to. But I did vote for the PN one, and I voted for Bernard Grech.
All right.
And obviously now I've resigned my membership of the Labour Party because, yeah.
So one of Lovin's biggest campaign was this famous, constitutional case, trying to get the Broadcasting Authority to do its job, or you want a sort of ruling on where that impartiality clause stands. Now that you're with the Nationalist Party, are you going to start using the media for those same nefarious purposes that you wanted to try, kind of push back at, and what are you going to do to instill some change in the way that the Nationalist Party kind of handles its media?
Yeah, again, I'm not here to dictate, and I'm not here to even, orchestrate the media. I'm here to kind of help at a strategic level the Nationalist Party's vision and message. And I'm here to lend my voice to the discussions that will undoubtedly take place about, all the structures of the party. I've met many of the people at Net and Media Link, and I...
Did you get a few funny glances?
Well, I mean, arguably yes, right? But when we spoke, we were actually much more on the same page than I thought. First of all, I think, a lot of people believe the Labour spin that I want to shut down the stations, which is just not true, right? What I've campaigned for and what I believe in is that there should be as much distinction as possible between the political parties and the media organizations. And I believe that we should have direction from the Constitution in terms of being as impartial as possible. The guys at Net agree that they should have more independence, in the sense more editorial independence and more independence to be credible and to respect their audience's intelligence, and we're on the same page.
How would that work then?
Well, in many ways, as it does, in the sense that I think if you look at the programming of Net and you look at the programming of One, you'll see that there is quite a difference in approach.
And have you asked why Media Link hasn't presented any accounts for 17 years?
I did.
And what was the answer?
The problem seems to be that when you have such a backlog, right? When you have people who left certain positions and didn't do what needed to be done for years after another, it becomes very difficult to fix that retroactively, right? Even in terms of auditing and things like that.
So there are massive holes in the accounts then?
I'm not sure if there are holes. I think it's just very difficult to verify what there is, right? Because...
So to have a situation where no auditor in his right mind would sign off on the accounts?
I think it's a challenge.
And how's that going to be resolved then? Because,
yeah, I mean...
17-year impasse.
Yeah. I mean, you're preaching to the converted, Jake? As in,
you're the man on the inside
I've
now.
exposed this, and it's... and I know it's unacceptable. What I know as well is that the party also knows it's unacceptable, and it's doing everything it can to change that. And now, instead of just pointing that out, I'm going to be here helping to try and solve it.
I'll hold you to account on that one.
Yeah.
And what was your relationship with Joseph Muscat?
I voted for him in 2013. I voted for Labour in 2013. I absolutely didn't vote for Labour in 2017, and that's because to me, he breached the electorate's trust. And the saddest part of it is that nobody in Malta's history had the chance to change the systems in Malta as much as he did. And instead, he entrenched them in a way that they might be impossible to change, to fix, And that's, to me, devastating, to know that I enabled that.
But don't you think his successor, Roberto Abela, is actually doing a good job, given the hand that was dealt to him? Seeing that you sort of had your foot in both doors, you were a member of both the Nationalist Party and the Labour Party. Mm-hmm. What tipped you towards the Nationalist Party?
I think Robert Abela's hand has largely been forced, right? I think a lot of the decisions that have been taken by Robert Abela were taken by force because there were institutions breathing down his neck. And I think it's really sad to be living in a country where we're effectively being told what to do by foreign institutions because we don't want to do the right thing from our own, ourselves. Like that bothers me. And I think it comes across in the decisions that haven't yet been taken, the people who still need to be sort of dealt with in terms of both criminally and in terms of at political level. I don't have deep antagonism towards Robert Abela, and I respect him, and I respect anyone who gets into political life, first of all.
That after a week.
After a week I have even more respect for anyone who gets into political life.
And can the Nationalist Party afford another bloody leadership contest after the election? Because come what may, unless the PN wins, Bernard Greg's going to have to resign. So what are you saying? Are you in here just doing the groundwork for Roberta Metsola to come in? And what's your vision there?
Look, I won't lie that I would have. I think when the leader when Roberta's name was considered in the run-up to the leadership contest, I thought, of course, Roberta should be the leader. Today, given the fact that she is the Vice President of the European Parliament, that she's got a chance probably at being the President of the European Parliament, at a time when global policy has never been more important for Malta, COVID, climate change. I certainly think that today the Nationalist Party should be helping her thrive as much as possible to have Malta's and the Nationalist Party's voice at the discussion table at that level as much as possible. And I don't think we should be begging her to come and clean up the mess in the Nationalist Party. I think if her time comes to come and lead in Malta, then great. She's certainly an asset to Malta and to the Nationalist Party, and I have great respect for her. To answer your question about an election after, I think one of the problems that the Nationalist Party has faced in the past 10 years is that all these leadership races also led to a complete cutting off of institutional knowledge every time, right? So everyone left with the leader each time. I don't think that was a great idea.
And can you ever see yourself going to Labour at some point?
Going to Labour? No, I don't think Labour needs me, in the sense that I think they certainly have a lot of strategic thinking and a lot of ability to communicate, and I believe this is my natural home, and I fought it for many years, you know. I never considered myself to be a nationalist, but I've sort of reconciled that in my mind today, and I feel very much like a nationalist, very proud of the Nationalist Party's history, and very excited about what the nationalist governments can bring in the future.
And one of your social media posts before you did join the Nationalist Party was about Republica. You know, you said it would almost be better if the PN and Republica start to coordinate. Does Nationalist Party see Republica as a threat, and are you going to try and, you know, do what you said on Facebook and try and get these two organizations together?
I think Republica and the Nationalist Party have a common front, right? Which is that they want better governance in the country. They've identified the source of incredible bad governance in the country. And like all components of the opposition, you know, whether that's civil society, whether that's ADPD, whether that's in some ways the press, and you know, anyone who has observed the dangers of the absolute power that the Labour government enjoys today has an interest in being on the same page. How they express that needs to be seen. You know, I think there is obviously an important space for Republica and civil society, but I think it can be problematic sometimes when Republica does something that the Nationalist Party is blamed for immediately, you know, and creates a situation where no matter how strategic the Nationalist Party may be or try to be, there is a, you know, it falls victim to that situation.
So
it's a difficult problem. I don't know. I don't know the solution. I think communication is probably a big part of the solution. You know, I think that just like the government should communicate better with Republica, the Nationalist Party should communicate better with Republica. And I think Republica has an interest in communicating better with both the government and the Nationalist Party.
And one thing that seems to have rubbed people up the wrong way, especially given the dire state of the Nationalist Party's finances, is your pay. I believe Malta, they asked the Nationalist Party how much you're being paid. They didn't say. You were all for transparency when you were at Lovin. Do you want to tell us how much you're getting paid?
Well, it all depends on when the election is, right? Because
what's the monthly rate then?
The Nationalist Party doesn't say what its salaries are, you know, like most private organizations, like the Times, for example, you know. And if I were to set that precedent, then it puts a lot of pressure on everyone else to reveal their salaries. And I think, again, when you've got a problem of equality of arms in general, you know, what's funny is like you've never probably asked Labour for their salaries, you know, and you know, no one bothers how much Kurt Farrugia is getting paid.
We know how much he's getting paid by Malta Enterprise.
Yeah, by Malta Enterprise on the taxpayer money, and we should know how much he's getting paid by the taxpayer money. But as a Labour Party, you know, when we don't ask those questions to Labour, but we ask them of the PN, you know.
And the question, obviously, because given the financial situation, you begin to wonder, you know, how are they supporting this? Have they got some
donors?
The
Nationalist Party has actually published its accounts as a Nationalist Party. Labour hasn't, so maybe you want to ask Labour.